journalists worth their salt should avoid cliches like the plague. So where better than here in Loch Ness than to start the hunt for that rare mystical beastie, the Scottish Conservative.
This May, the three queens of Scottish politics go head-to-head in the elections for the Holyrood Parliament. The polls place the Tories somewhere between 11 and 16%, third behind the SNP and Labour. Scottish Tories may not be extinct, but they are hard to find.
Hello, we're looking for Scottish Conservatives.
All right.
Do you know any? Are
no.
you one?
No, I'm not.
Where do you suggest? Out there somewhere?
Probably.
Newsnight takes the low road to meet Ruth Davidson, the Tory Queen of Scots, so to speak. She's gay, a Christian, likes a drink, and as a former Territorial Army officer, can kill you. What's not to like? She's invited me to go for a walk up a hill. So deep down, really, you want to be the British Prime Minister, don't you?
I have no wish to take on that job. I'm incredibly privileged to have seen behind the door at number 10, and it just looks like the loneliest job in the world. So I've got quite a big job here, leading the Scottish Conservatives. We're about to come into a pivotal election in Scotland, and I know exactly where my focus lies.
Do you get bored with people talking about Mrs Thatcher and the poll tax all the time?
Well, to be honest, you know, that's not been the topic of conversation in Scotland for quite some time. We've had other things on our plate, but I mean, I think people have to remember that I was, 6 months old when Margaret Thatcher came to power. I was still in primary school when she left office, so it's not really something for my generation or the generations that come after me, and I'm 37. You can vote now in Scotland at the age of 16. So talking about Margaret Thatcher is the same as talking about, I don't know, Gladstone or Disraeli in terms of the sort of level of distance that's there.
Davidson is not just a Scottish Tory, but she has a secret too. So Mum and Dad, they owned the castle?
No, not in the slightest. My dad left school at 16, my mum at 15. They're both from housing estates in Glasgow, sort of working class blue collar Tory vote that we used to have, and I'm working very hard to get back. My dad worked in the mills and the borders until they shut, and then came up to Fife and worked in, again, textiles, and then he made whisky for a living, which I thoroughly approved of when he got that job.
That's a good job.
It was a great job.
Yeah, so who's going to win? During the referendum, she got a lot of stick on social media. Some of it was okay, some of it was not.
I let most of it alone, but the one thing I do call out, and I will challenge or retweet or draw attention to, is when people make homophobic remarks about me, because I have a lot of young gay followers on Twitter, and you know, I think they have to see that it is okay to say that's not acceptable language. I do not have to accept this, and it's important in their lives rather than a tough old bird like me.
Isn't it a bit weird being both Scottish Conservative and, in terms of gay rights, a bit cool?
Well, do you know, I've never tried to hide any part of myself. I try and be as open and as honest as I can, and sometimes, you know, being a Conservative, being Scottish, being female, being gay, being a person of faith, you know, sometimes people can make judgments about you for one or many of these categories.
That's enough of Mr. Nice Guy. Time for a killer question. If this were a Scottish gangster movie, you'd be wearing concrete boots. There's no possibility that you'll ever lead this country because you're a Scottish Conservative.
Well, I'm not entirely sure what gangster movies you watch, John, but you know, I think that it's right to say that the Scottish Conservatives have underperformed in recent years. I think that particularly that crucial juncture around 1997, we got a lot of things wrong. We just had a wipeout. There's no MPs left up here. We took the wrong side of the argument to what the majority of people in Scotland wanted regarding having a more flexible United Kingdom, having devolution. And I think I've worked very hard as leader of this party to make sure that we kind of get past that. You know, the SNP have been really good about going around Scotland saying that everything that's good in Scotland, it's because we spent money on it, and everything's bad because those nasty people at Westminster didn't give us enough.
Why don't you rebrand Scottish Conservatism into something else, give it another name? So you've got a centre-right party, which isn't Scottish Conservatives, because the brand people say is a bit toxic.
Well, we had this discussion at the leadership election that I was involved in, and my position then is pretty much the same as it is now, which is, if you remember when Skoda used to do rubbish cars and there was jokes about Ladas and Skodas, and then VW came in and they had a choice. They either rebadged the cars as VWs or they made the car better, and VW chose to make the car better. Well, that's what I'm trying to do with the Scottish Conservatives. I don't just want to change the name but have the same people and the same policies and all the rest of it and just look as if we're Conservatives that are ashamed of being Conservatives. I'm not ashamed of being Conservative. It's the party I joined, it's the party I believe in, but I want to shape the Conservatives and I want to make the car better. I want to make this party better, and that's what I've been trying to do.
So you're getting your strategy from the car giant that faked its emissions?
No, it's an analogy that I use to illustrate a point.
Davidson's Tories may be on course for defeat, but Labour is likely to be the bigger loser in this May's election. And that will make this old soldier a greater force for Nicola Sturgeon to reckon with.